Welcome, GM. This is episode 8, officially, actually, episode 9 of the Momentum podcast, the Builder podcast, where we talk about everything that's happening on MultiversX and in the ecosystem. With me are my two friends, Mihai and Robert. Robert isn't even tuned into the stream yet, but we welcome you anyway. How are you, Robert? How are you, Mihai?
Thanks. I'm fine. I'm fine. Still running some tests and running some AI to verify a lot of things around the economics and the governance, but all is fine. A little bit easier week than the previous 2 or 3 ones, and finally got back to write some code. So everything is fine.
Mihai.
Hello. Yeah, I'm happy that we are finally here again after those days and those weeks of fire, to say so. I'm also testing a lot with the team. There are lots of things to do. I was just thinking, how was the world? how were we testing before all those agents, Robert? Just because now we are testing so much more, and also it's very easy to fuzzy test and do all kind of scenarios. And before, all those kind of things were most of the times written by hand. So yeah, that's a lot of velocity being added here now with the new technologies, to say so. But yeah, happy to be here and see what happened and what is going to happen.
A lot has happened, and one first reminder: this is live, actually live. This is why Robert is live coding on stream. You can ask questions, comment. We are looking at the chat, at least we try to. And we usually start with a little bit of a broader overview of what happened in the world of technology and Web3, then go a little bit over what happened on MultiversX and what is happening in development. Then we'll give a little bit of an overview of some highlights from the month, although that's always hard to choose. And then maybe we'll give a little bit of a preview of what's going to happen. So while Robert is reviewing there, Mihai, I'll start with you because this is something you wanted to talk about. We had the biggest crash ever or liquidation moment in crypto short 20 days ago now, October 10th, Black Friday. Just give us a little bit of a breakdown of what you think happened, what the official story was,
Well,
and how that
following the
affected.
official story would be the easiest way, just because that's the official, let's say, problem that everyone knows about. And that was the President Trump, President of the United States, posting about renewing the tariffs on China. And actually, that's the biggest surprise, which took everyone by fear. Actually, a surprise 100% tariff on Chinese goods. And this amplified the panic and actually triggered the reaction that we've seen. A lot of move across global markets, not only crypto. And that's what actually triggered the flash crash by the afternoon. I think the intensity was around 4:30 or 5:30 in the noon, eastern on the east coast of America, and that's the trigger was actually when a whale added more than $23 million in shorts, and that's what actually started the entire downward spiral. Now,
Yeah, massive leverage short.
That's a nice official story, but I think
exactly
that
that's what I wanted.
That's just something to put in. I don't know, for somebody who doesn't get into the details of things. Um, Getting more. So, from my perspective, this was a sort of attack. What happened, like in case of the Luna UST system. So I think that the people wanted to actually attack the perpetual dexes, and then the perpetual dexes have, most of them, but even the chexes, they have a function where they take. So in order for the system to not crash, they have the auto deleverage system where
Mm,
deleverage and close a lot of positions, even the winning ones. And I think that this was a deliberate attack on that,
mm,
and that is what amplified it. It's like in the case of Luna UST, it was pretty easy to understand what was happening. In this case, it was a little bit more down because about the auto delivery system, like there was one paragraph in case of hyper and one paragraph in case of any of the checks. So that was one of the things, let's say, which contributed to be much more massive than it was actually announced. It was announced to be, I don't know how many billions, 20 billion, I think, but
Yeah, 18 to 20, I think
yeah,
was the
but
first
it's
estimate.
actually up on top of it. I think it's over 400 billions. But again, this Black Friday was Black Friday for the buyers, if
yeah.
they managed to buy. But the problem was that everything was like attacked. Front ends were attacked, oracles were attacked. People couldn't actually buy, even if you were on a checks, you couldn't do anything. So
Yeah.
it was a sort of, no, it was really sophisticated, that it was not only just a short but a whole informatics system against a bunch of things and against oracles as well. One more thing into this to add, recently, I think this week, I saw about like what is happening in the economy of the world, where stock prices are super high and people are not feeling the real economic growth because there is none, or let's say little, depending on what part of the planet you are. But there is, I don't think that anywhere there is like a real big economic growth in this sense. And then it was, it all goes back to the over, let's say, leverage or over estimations of the stock prices versus what the real economy is doing. So there is, I think that we are moving, or everyone is moving in some thin ice, and then you don't know when things can crash. And in these kind of scenarios, when people, let's say, don't know when things can crash, then people are not keeping their liquidities on exchanges. People are not keeping their liquidities to keep the network, those, let's say, DeFi or financial positions safe, yeah, safe or healthy. They are just they don't do that. So in this case, it created this kind of cascading effect, one on top of the other, and in the end, even the oracles were attacked and everything around that. I don't know if there is some investigators about what was like. This would be, let's say, like a $100 100-page story, I think, but it would be fun to learn every single thing which was broken in Black Friday, if you say so, to be the Black Friday.
Yeah.
What would you Yeah, sorry.
So what I would call it, it's actually a kind of a liquidity harvesting, just because. So the price dropped fast. I mean, I think it was 15% in Bitcoin, 25 in Ethereum, and the list goes on. And afterwards, it was a V-shaped position, and then afterwards it grew very fast. So um, that's why you could suspect manipulation, just because whales prepared, they were pre-positioned on shorts and afterwards on longs. And there were some strange exchange issues, like empty order books or failed market orders and so on. And yeah, that's why it's clearly that there was something else in the middle, not only what not the story I started with, but I just wanted to say the official story of it. um I mean, from these kind of events, it's very important for everyone in the market to learn. There were so many exposed vulnerabilities like over leveraging, power concentration among whales. I don't know what you can do on that, and all kind of potential exchange money exploits. So probably after having the analysis Robert mentioned about the 100 page, we would need a playbook of another 200 pages how to keep your fund safe.
Well,
How to
one
keep
big
your
learning
fund
was
safe?
to
How to keep
move it
your
on chain, right?
just put it on chain and then don't perp dex too much. Just with the amount of money you want to lose, and also let's say if you perp dex, be active, and when you are sleeping, close all your positions. So just if you perp dex for 1 2 3 hours or whatever, do that. I think that a lot of people are doing it, or anyway, from let's say from bots and from automatized things.
Mm,
The funny thing is that when everything is crashing, no bot and no things can save you. So
mm. But can we argue and can we say that somehow this was necessary just to have a healthier market condition right now?
no, I don't think that the market is at any way healthier. The
Yeah.
market actually needs like real economic growth, not only just this kind of speculation. I think we have started to see some kind of, let's say, real, I don't know, real economy you would call right now the prediction markets a little bit, but sadly, from my as I see, there is like too much fuss around it right now, not so organic. There is something organic, I'm not saying that everything is unorganic, but some of the volumes and some of the things are not going in organic way. And let's argue that also that uh, if everything is about only moving money or tokens or markets or things around, that is not creating economic growth. There is no there is no, the output of it is like getting money from one hand to another hand, and
Yeah.
then another type of market gets revenue out of it, but there is no production of actual output. And I think this is right now, this is, let's say, the biggest problem in the world. So that's why I said that as the global economics is not looking good while the stock prices are super high. So
Yeah, and like I saw something recently. So the Magnificent Seven, right? The trillion-dollar companies are literally just putting money into each other's pockets. So it looks very good for the stockholders. There's actually been, I think, a decline in revenue in the top 50. Only the top seven, there have been increasing their net revenue. All the others have been losing, at least compared to inflation or on average. So that are some very concerning sort of numbers to see, and also again points, especially in terms of on-chain markets, to the need of creating real life value and real businesses and real economic value in the world, where people get employed and not just laid off because AI is replacing them.
yeah, there are a lot
So
of lays off in a continuous ways. As you said, the Magnificent Seven are like, they have a bigger valuation than big countries. I think even bigger than Japan or stuff like that. And in the meantime, they did all those kind of bubble economics between each of them. Um, AI is nice and fun to use, and I get that the magnificent or those who built those technologies, they get a lot of money or a lot of revenue out of it. But when the real economy, like production and goods and services, are lacking, then something is wrong, and there is a thin ice on it, and then some kind of recalibration will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. OpenAI just announced that they are going to raise for an evaluation of 1 trillion. So let's see how
Yeah,
it goes.
that's a nice start. Like, I don't know how many companies are 1 trillion, and then a new startup comes and actually puts it directly at a trillion valuation.
But wasn't OpenAI, wasn't it 3 trillion that they needed estimated for them to actually build the AGI?
At
Yeah,
one
It was
point,
even a
two
higher
two
number,
years
right?
ago or 3 years ago, but since I think that the algorithms have changed, and then it is easier right now to train all those models. So you never know, but they are crazy. Those gigawatt factories for servers and things are crazy.
but based on that, Robert, you can argue that it's not only fuss and only numbers and money moved from one pocket to the other, just because there's a lot of money being invested in technology and real silicon, which is being used in the GPUs and all those new technologies, which are going to be used for having more powerful computation capacity. So, yeah, the numbers may be inflated, but in the end, somehow there are a lot of investments in infrastructure as well. And also, if you have seen the podcast from that Andrei Karpati had while presenting his opinion on the actual state of artificial intelligence and the companies building around it and so on. Yeah, it's somehow inflated. It's a money game, but steadily, let's say the industries are adapting to what actual and transformers can offer to the market.
Yeah, definitely a topic that I think we could linger on for forever. But we have some other stuff to go through, and some of us have soccer games, I hear, Mihai, to attend. So let's talk about the most, I don't know, intense weeks, perhaps, in terms of like uh, hashing things out directly with the community in probably MultiversX Elrond history, which has been this governance process that started, I believe, on October 3rd, is still ongoing. There's 2 more days to vote. Make sure you go and participate in the governance process. But yeah, I don't know if Robert, you were extremely involved. Maybe just give us a little bit of an overview of like all the work that was actually put in before October 3rd, and all of the meetings and stakeholder consultations and other work that went into what became a first draft of the proposal that then was changed significantly with community input over the next over the course of 3 weeks. But yeah, maybe let's start a little bit from before anything was actually brought to the public. Give us an impression of all the work that went into it, how long you've been, playing with different models, and yeah, all the stuff that went into building this.
I don't even know where to start in this thing. Like, the 3 weeks were really intensive. What was sometimes bothering is that even if we made all these kind of crazy highest standard discussions, debates, openness, permissionless pools contract, permissionless governance, and everything around. If you went into Twitter, some bots and strange, let's say, a set of people were watching only out for the negatives, and treating everything on the negative side. Sadly, I think this is like, wow, like everywhere in the world, this is like it. So they are like fields, whether you like point A or point B, and then if you are point A, then you hate everything of point B, and vice versa. And it doesn't matter if the other party is doing their best and actually at the highest standard of the industry. So the economics discussion, let's say internally in the team, started back in January, I think, first. That's when I started to think about some of the ideas, and like it was an open problem, like, or no problem actually given, but let's say the only question was how to achieve economic growth inside the ecosystem and how to get e-gold to grow, and that was uh, really early in January, I think. And then I started to discover and try to write a set of, let's say, economics proposals. And then what was the process is that I was writing one, and then as AI is here, I started to create simulations, compare it with others, create simulation games, create game theory, and actually deconstruct my own theories a few times. I still get, and people like to quote me that somewhere in February I wrote that we are not going to touch the maximum supply, but the thing is that um, increasing taxes does not solve anything. As we see in Europe, as we see everywhere, once you start increasing taxes, businesses move to other places, and that's increasing taxes actually kills the economy, doesn't grow it. That's like all the economy says. So I started to read more and more books and get more and more involved in all kinds of, let's say, podcasts and simulation games and everything. I think in somewhere in August, early August, there was a meeting in Sibiu with all the builders. Not all the builders,
July even.
a,
Yeah.
a set of, I think we were around 50 people in the office, and no economics was presented at that time because we didn't have any kind of internal version. We just was having some questions, and then we were discussing about the questions and about the pain points of different actors in the space, investors, builders, validators, to get all the points, because this is a complex economy and then economics, and then you have to solve it. And then I think that internally we started to have some kind of ideas by the middle of September, and then the first version, which went into an internal debate, was actually 1 week before the Foundry session. And then all week long in the Foundry session, we were hardcore debating that. Like before that, there were 4 or 5 versions of economics, which were all deleted because internally reviewed, simulations did not work, anything, all kinds of ideas. And then like this version, which went out in the Foundry, that had, let's say, it was finalized at, it wasn't even finalized before the Foundry session. It was even in a draft way. It was like the rough ideas were there, and then we said, let's go out and then let's do together with the community. One funny thing about the community is that a lot of people were asking, okay, let's do economics together with the community, and those, the haters, say, oh, you are doing with the community, so you don't know what you want to do. It was like nothing was good enough for some kind of people. Sorry for the ranting, but after so many weeks, it's this kind of. But again, I think before the Foundry session, we had a lot of calls, me and you, Lucas, about how do we want to go through the economics. and what are the best course of action. How do we ensure that people can get involved? How do we not force them but invite them to get involved and feel this kind of, okay, I want to get involved. And then in 1 week we half vibe coded the Pulse platform, then Agora, then Telegram, then all the debate sessions and everything around it. And I pretty much liked that people were coming in with objective propositions, and then we could discuss about those. And yes, we needed to take some hard decisions, but in the end, I think that we have reached an economics which is much more fit for the future than any kind of economics out there in the blockchain system. I think that this kind of pushing towards innovation continuously, fueling internal economics, fueling new builders, creating decentralized organizations for those, that is something which really resembles a decentralized network, which invites developers and everybody to join and build the things. So and for the long term, because every few years there is a new innovation and a new product which has to be built, which needs liquidity, which needs money to fund, which needs alignment. And let's say if you have only a finite amount of, let's say, a treasury that goes out, and then I think that like uh, the economy it cannot sustain itself in these kind of growth scenarios. That's what economics of nations actually demonstrate a lot of times, that innovation cycles are coming and going, and in case of innovation cycles, you have to be really focused on in what you invest, and you have to invest and you have to have the fuel to invest in those, because otherwise everything goes down. Like let's say right now a little bit of example between the US and Europe. US is pushing in all this innovation around stable coins, around AI, around robotics, around building their more factories inside US. And then the EU says, okay, let's not do anything, let's tax more and still buy all the goods from China or whatever. And the result is that the Chinese electric cars will eat up the European market. They are already started it. Porsche lost 90% of the revenue from 1 year to another. And okay, Porsche will remain with the enthusiasts of the 911, but the others, it's like so there is no innovation, no fueling into an innovation. Even Mistral AI has a problem here in EU because of how the rules and regulations are, and it's crazy.
Before you go too much deeper in the
No.
EU rant,
I just wanted to
because I
say
know
as
I
an
can't stop you
example.
for 10 minutes if I let that happen. Yeah, let's wrap up like this idea of there was a lot of thought and a lot of research that had gone into the proposal. The goals were very clear. They were aligned beforehand with stakeholders, validated with economists, and other investors, and of course the VCs, etc., that have been involved with MultiversX over this period. But then having this process in a completely new way. And I don't think this has been emphasized enough somehow, or it hasn't really been appreciated in the way that I think it ought to, was like, this was a unique opportunity for stakeholders to actually, not just vote with their stake, but get involved and literally shape the economic proposal. And there were dozens that we had conversations with during this process. over these 3 weeks that really became active. Some of them brought their own knowledge, their own expertise from their field, be it economics or be it their background in entrepreneurship, startups, and other things. And that was really, I think, a fascinating process to see, because if you thought, or me in like 2020, learning about blockchain decentralization and all of this stuff, this was the kind of thing that I was excited and passionate about in some way, to get into the space and to not just have like top down decisions, but to be presented with something that was clearly imperfect, and had some deliberate holes, by the way. Also, got to say this, like, it wasn't just that there wasn't put any, like, it was unfinished. Some things were deliberately left out, just so people could bring their own ideas and actually fill some of these gaps and see how they matched up with what the plan was beforehand. And I think
Yeah,
that
that
was a
that
really
one of the funny thing was that, let's say, the decay function for the inflation or
Mhm.
the emission rate was, let's say, written in a form or another before going out the foundry sessions. But we said, okay, let's go out without that, because we want to feel, let's say, even the pain and the pressure on us, because we knew that will be attacked in all parts. And it was funny that even after we said that, come on, it we wanted to do this, we wanted to create this kind of discussions. Some they didn't like it, but it doesn't matter but whether they didn't like it. I think this kind of process was amazing. So we saw how many people got involved. We had Agora actually lit up, and we loved that it lit up. And then, in the end, all those debates, I like them. It also shows how, let's say, whether you have a big community and stuff like that, only a handful of people will get involved in this. And one more thing which shows out is that the economics knowledge in general, it's not, I'm not attacking any person in the MultiversX community or in any kind of person on the blockchain space, but it is low in general in the world. And then I although there are countless of economics books and you can get delve into those, the actual knowledge, it's pretty low. And also from game theory perspective, so those are two things which you have to consider. Economics theories and game theory you have to consider when building such systems up. And those, some of those are mathematical, some of those are philosophical. Those two have to be put together to create some kind of simulations. And the knowledge for that, it's, let's say, it is not really taught very well in universities or in schools. So every person has to be, let's say, autodidact in that sense, and then learn. But in the end, what is fascinating is that we have this full governance, permissionless, on-chain, highest standard system out there. The great thing is that even the liquid staking providers, those are created permissionless systems, and then they created snapshots. So every liquid staking provider has their own contracts and their own limitations, or they have to offer the voting power for their own users. And it is great that, okay, they calculated the voting powers out of open standards and open scripts about, even for the liquid LP tokens and for farm tokens. So every single vote counts. And then that is pretty fun. And that shows how resilient the governance system is actually. The guys are laughing
yeah.
that I start to speak and they need a pause. Okay, man.
No, I mean, it shows, I think, you've been involved. I think there was of course like a team sort of behind the writing, but you being one of the main contributors and writers of it, and then have you spent how many days literally did we spend in these streams, in these forums, and like really having open conversations, both on stream and off stream, of course, also, right? There were the open discussions, open forums, then there were stakeholder calls, there were internal team meetings and calls on reviewing all of these changes and ideas, etc. So there's been a lot. And a person who's done a lot of simulations in the background is Mihai. I also want to get your take on how it felt, from your perspective, and kind of what your takeaways are, and then maybe we'll move on and revisit the governance stuff at the end of the stream too.
Sure. So I think there are two topics that we are discussing about. One is governance. The other one is what we proposed in the governance, and both of them are new for us. Just because it was the first governance that we had on chain, and then second, just because it was the first big economic change that we had in the past years. Now, historically speaking, about governance votes in general and specifically ours, from ancient times we had like tribes and monarchies, and afterwards we had democracies like the one in Athens, where citizens voted directly on issues, something similar to what we have right now in our case. And fast forwarding to today, we see that there are some representative systems, like parliaments, congresses, and then you have some representatives in those houses. And there we elect some people to make decisions on our behalf. The same thing we see also in the governance proposals and governance modules, to say so, that other ecosystems also have. And some of them are successful, some of them are not. For the time being, we are with this governance module, and we are going to measure the results. We are going to see if it touches the missions that we propose for the entire community. And I believe that our current form promotes stability, fairness, and efficiency. Is a way how everyone can be involved and has a voice to say. So we could say it's not static. It evolves, as we have seen, and what Robert already said. It evolves from one version to another. We discuss, we debate, and we should expect to see other models. About the economics, and this is something that I said in the sessions that I've participated. It's something that we proposed, we discussed, we analyzed, we simulated, but it's something that we will also continue measuring and targeting against some objective key results and KPIs that we are going to look at. And that's what Robert was presenting in all his papers, the base and bull scenarios. And based on that, we will come back to a governance call, to the governance model, and talk again about the situation and the things, how they look. And this is something which I believe is very important for the entire concept of decentralization based on governance, or let's say ruled by governance of the community. Challenges, yeah, so only a few Robert mentioned, but I believe there were like plenty that are not disclosed, and each of us had different challenges, new challenges. Obviously, there are going to be huge challenges ahead. But probably the biggest one that we have to find a solution for is the voter apathy. I mean, what I want to say is how do we get people to participate in this kind of decisions? Not only by tweeting, but also having on hand activity. Yeah.
Did you feel there was apathy? I felt like people were actually quite involved, and we have a record turnout. I don't think I didn't feel. I mean, maybe you weren't in enough of these calls and enough Twitter fights, but it felt unapathetic, I would say.
Compared to our previous governance calls, that's true. Just because we are looking at the level of participation, but ideally, we would like to have more than 50% of entire voting power participating, actively participating at the voting process.
2 days left.
Exactly.
We're 42% almost now.
I think so.
There is a path. There is a path, but it's very interesting. Also, I think just wrapping this chapter up here, and Robert also wants to say, I think, one last thing, but this itself, right, is a process of learning. This was the first time we tried doing something that's never been done in this particular way. That, of course, itself was imperfect, but I think there's a lot of lessons that came out of this process on how, like, where the best, like, what kind of formats the best information and the best suggestions and the best amendments come from, and then how to really improve even on the governance system itself. There were some, of course, some ideas also on how, for example, move to a quadratic voting system. I think this was considered in the past, and somebody was able to show that this could be manipulated. So that's the reason this isn't in place. But of course, this process itself could be changed, and in order to better represent all of the voices in the ecosystem. And again, if the goal is to basically get as close to 100% voter stake turnout as possible, there's a lot of refinements that can be done that aren't just like, oh, we'll let the validators vote and then
Exactly.
we get to much higher things. We actually want to hear from the stakers, from the stakeholders, not just from the people that hold the delegation. So I think that's an extremely interesting process to see how that unfolds. Robert, I'll give you the last word on the governance process, and then we'll move on to something that everybody wants to hear about, Supernova. But last word.
So the governance right now, it's the highest standard of the industry per se. It allows everybody to actually vote, and then it allows you to, even in the time of the vote, to buy more stake and vote. That's pretty awesome. So even right now, you can go out and buy more equal, stake it, and vote. The thing is that some of the protocols, they use, let's say, validators to vote, or they consider something voted when the validators upgrade their nodes. I don't think this is actual governance. Even if you go, let's say, into uh, in a country, there is somebody who has to, let's say, keep the laws or keep the law. And let's say in this case, the validators running the nodes are applying the law. But the laws, let's say, in case of Switzerland, are voted by every single individual. And then they have this kind of referendum systems. It is much harder to get big quorum out of this system because a lot of people are just, let's say, buying, and they have it, they stake it, and they live there for 2-3 years and they don't touch it. Another thing to mention is that checkses are not allowed to, not by us, but by law, they are not allowed to vote, and because they want to be neutral. So all the funds which are staked at checkses, they don't get in the vote at all, but they are calculated in the how much of the total stake can vote. And it is also a philosophical question about, okay, whether you want to have one person, one vote, or the big whales to get all the votes out there. That's a I don't know. That's a pretty hardcore question. What we have right now, and we can see, is that at elron.tax.governance, vibe coded by Mihai, I think, Mihai Eremia, we can see that all the groups and all the parties, whether they are small or big investors, everybody was heavily in favor of yes. And even in case of quadratic voting, if calculated with quadratic voting, we would have pretty much similar results. I think it would be 93% for yes. Yeah, 94.4% for yes and 6% for no. And then you see that this kind of clear distribution of everybody actually wanting this kind of economics, and then it is pretty awesome to see it. Again, doing this way, making people be no snapshots, people can buy, stake, vote at any time. This makes it permissionless, open. If people want to buy more e-gold and steer the votes into one direction, they can do it. That's what let's say, this kind of system allows. And then it is actually pretty risky business for, let's say, for the core team, because everything is in open, and then for the protocol team, and then there is no ownership of half of the assets to steer the discussions in one direction or the other. The distribution is okay, let's say better than some of the most of the projects in terms of tokens. So I am pretty happy, like, not pretty happy, I'm pretty impressed about the results, and I love these kind of results that even in this kind of crazy super risky discussions, which from the protocol team is discussions are always risky economics, the community come together, and then the process, two and a half weeks of discussions or 3 weeks of discussions and everything around it, uh, made a good impact on for everybody, and made a good impact on the results as well, with the change document and with the incoming governance results as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it was we spoke, like, we could continue this conversation because this is in itself is super fascinating. Maybe once the governance voting has ended, there will be a special stream that we'll do, maybe Saturday or something, or maybe Monday, to give a final overview also on the next steps, etc. But it's been a very intense process that I think has been extremely educational in many ways. Again, wanted to also at least briefly touch on some of the other developments, because of course Supernova is a huge focus. This has been a parallel effort, not just 30 plus hours, I think, of governance calls, but also trying to get the largest upgrade in the history of Elrond and MultiversX across the finish line. Mihai, I'm hearing there was a big meeting today on the progress, so I'll let you report what you're allowed to report on the progress and what people should expect when.
It's very important to know that everything is dynamic. We are in the final phase of merging all the open PRs to the main branch. I mean, as always, this is open source, so anyone can check already on GitHub what's the status. And we are already in the preparation phase for the testing environments. There are going to be several scenarios and several setups that are going to be available for testing. And we are going, obviously, smaller, let's say, testing activities and testing actions have already happened on smaller components and on feature branches. But usually, when we have all those features being merged into the final and most important branch, which is going to be the release branch, which with which every validator is going to upgrade their nodes, we have a special kind of process through which we have to go, and we are very close to starting that process. Now, very close may mean 1-2 weeks, but also 4 to 6 weeks, depends on the bugs or the things that we will find. And afterwards, the, let's say, internal audits and also external audits are going to happen on this very specific upgrade, just because of the huge changes which so if we considered Andromeda being a big release, Supernova is massive compared to Andromeda. So it's very important to have all the dots connected and all the let's say edge cases covered, so that we will have a very strong software out there for everyone to test. And when I'm saying everyone, we will have plans and instructions for every builder, for every validator, for every user, and also for, when I'm saying builder, I'm talking about application builders, so dApps who are already on the mainnet. I'm talking about users who can also participate, and validators who are going to take part into the entire process of testing. Everything is going to happen under a Battle of Nodes event. We will come with further information and instructions about how people can, let's say, submit their intention to participate in the Battle of Nodes campaign. We're going to have the state from the mainnet available on a testnet environment, so that people can test with their actual state from the mainnet. This is going to be very nice, just because you will feel exactly with what you have now on the mainnet. You will feel how Supernova will be after it will go through. And in the, let's say, most optimistic scenario, by the end of the year, we will have everything in line. If problems will appear on the road, obviously we will have at least 2 podcasts or probably 1.5 to announce the changes on that, and also the developer sessions, which should happen, validator sessions as well, where we will communicate the plans around how we want everyone to get involved.
I just looked it up. The last Thursday of the year in December is actually Christmas Day. So we might have to reschedule that one for maybe a few days earlier. But yeah, very interesting. Again, there is the biggest most massive upgrades that needs to be properly audited before anything goes on mainnet. This has the components of course, the team doing the internal testing, external testing from professionals, and then also the community in the Battle of Nodes, which probably will have multiple tracks specifically for validators, for app builders, and then for users to also participate. There is a $100,000 prize pool for this. So it's something that people can look forward to, and that more information will come out for. we're getting on the hour, and don't want to keep anyone for too much longer. By the way, Robert, if you have more thoughts on Supernova, let us know. Otherwise, we'll quickly also update people on something that everybody wants to know. Every time I see a post like what's happening with Vibe Studio 2, it gets huge interactions. People love VibeOX and they want to know what's happening there. But yeah, Robert, if you have one or two thoughts on Supernova, and then we'll move to that.
Yeah, so like after finalizing all the features, there will be really intensive testing, coding of transition periods, verifying all the transition periods whether they are good, import DB, rerunning everything to see that everything fits, even with the new consensus. Also, there will be a job, let's say, to verify that all the builders have upgraded their contracts, so to not use the old timestamp endpoints but to use the new ones and things like that. And that it will be as intensive, let's say, the November for Supernova as it was the October for the economics, at least.
Yeah, very much so. The calls are intense. The behind the scenes is very very interesting. We'll try to, maybe we'll get to share some, I don't know, BTS stories there as well, just to kind of show how much work goes into this, because yeah, it's a lot. Vibe Studio 2, Mihai, give us an update, please.
Yes. So about Vibe Studio 2, as mentioned, we are in the phase where we are internally testing what will happen with Supernova as well before going public. We are internally testing the setup that we've had, and about that, what we've had in plan for the past weeks, just because we changed so much and we added so many cool features. I'm so eager for everyone to test them and to provide feedback. Features that we did not think about like 2 months ago or 3 months ago when we started working on this huge project. And it's quite huge. I mean, just thinking back from what we planned, what we wanted to achieve, and where we are at, it's a huge difference. I don't want to spoil, just because it's going to be a very nice surprise when we will launch everything. We kept the idea with multi-agent. We improved on that idea. What we've brought, so if you are going to look at other platforms who are doing the same thing, like you have a window, you have a prompting area, to say so, where you introduce your prompt, you click a button, you receive a result, be it let's say static website or something more than that. Behind of it, there's let's say a Docker image which runs and it's being allocated to you. Actually, in our case, it's going to be a virtual machine that you have full control over, and that will bring a lot of opportunities for everyone to try and build all kind of things. And the most important thing and the most beautiful thing is the fact that you will be able to do everything from your mobile phone. So you are going to have at the tips of your mobile phone, or the tips of your fingers, a full computer that with which you can build stuff by talking to the agents. You'll be able to manually change the code. You'll be able to manually, or let's say verify if the users who are subscribed to your platform did a thing or another, just because you will have databases linked to them. You'll be able to publish the site that you created in less than 10 seconds with a custom domain, for example, lucas.com. So if you create a web page and then you want to publish it and you have the lucas.com domain, you can add add it to your product easily, and with one click you have it available for the world to try, and that's huge. Then what can be built around it? It's only a question of imagination and a question of creativity. Obviously, we will come with some suggestions, and lots of tutorials are needed, just like with any technology, which new technology which is being put at the hands of the people. But we are much more curious about the creativity of the users and the community, that the small community that we have around the product at the moment. But we are fully focused on growing it. And obviously, we are going to have several campaigns around Vibe Studio 2. And yeah, I'm just curious to see how it will go. Next week, we are going to start bringing people from outside our team to test it. I already got lots of requests from the community to participate in this closed round of testing. We will invite you one by one, and afterwards we will have again small batches of available places and seats for people from the community to join without any invitations, obviously. First came, first served. This is going to be the model. And yeah, I'm just happy to finally have it in this shape, ready to
Yeah.
be launched.
So if I want to be one of the testers, what do I have to do? Send you a DM on Twitter, or how do
No,
people
we have the VibeOX channel on Telegram.
Okay.
Just come there and write a message. We already have few people writing there.
Would it be helpful if I have vibe coded a bunch on VibeOX before, so I can show that I've been involved?
Good question. I don't think so.
Okay. Well, very exciting to see that new chapter. I've been waiting for it. I know a lot of people have been waiting for it. We're actually in some very interesting conversations. Actually, maybe I'll just transition there for this, because I had a conversation with this guy on the right today. This slideshow is always just an opportunity for me to show pictures of myself. So here I am on the left. On the right is a very interesting gentleman, the general manager of a 5,000 people town in France that did a pretty cool experiment, putting some council papers on chain. I did an interview with him today. I thought it was pretty cool. That will come out probably next week. Very interesting. And Robert, as we were talking before, definitely not just like a random sort of use case where just money is changing hands, but nothing really happens. But here we're talking about huge government contracts, for example, that he wants to put on chain, make the papers verifiable, and have yeah, a bunch of this data on chain, so actually democracy can be enhanced through verifiability, transparency, and all these things. So that's some very interesting stuff. Another great candidate for this, had a conversation with Dr. Adrian Victor Vivera, the head of ICI, a government institution in Romania, that are putting out, I think, NFTs every single week on MultiversX, inscribing, or every day even, with something called Ager Press, which is a newspaper that is also an NFT. They're pioneering some very interesting use cases. Would encourage everybody to kind of take a look at what they're building. And here's something for the vibes as well. This is me again. I'm telling you, I'm not lying. Mihai, you've talked to the winners of the hackathon that we've sponsored in Berlin. This was only a week ago. Time is only a concept
I
at
think
this
2
point.
weeks ago.
Talk a little bit about what the winners built and what impressed us as the jury.
Yes. To be honest, the theme name of the team I know is SIMD. I don't know exactly what's the acronym for, but I would put this product in the category of decentralized science. What they've built is actually an agent which is able to run simulations, all kind of simulations on physics, and for that simulations you would need a powerful computer, and they are building besides the entire platform for let's say describing the simulations that you need and then modulating them and so on, making the model behind the mathematical model behind the simulation that you want to run. Also, they will put those simulation, let's say, scientists with the hardware providers. They will put them in contact for running simulations. For example, if you have a very heavy, demanding simulation running, you will probably need several runners or workers for your simulation, and that the entire process is going to be notarized and also verified on the blockchain on MultiversX. Now, what's very interesting is the fact that they already have a few potential customers. What we did was that we proposed to them to support with development and to support them with not only development but marketing, and also putting in contact with other potential customers for their subject. And yeah, I'm very optimistic about what can be achieved there.
I will say one of the things that I've like being at the hackathon and seeing some of the projects. They were the only DeSci project, but I've been to a few meetups and conferences, specifically in Berlin. Seems to be a pretty thriving scene. And DeSci is actually one of the things I'm most bullish about, because it solves real world problems. It's not just another financialized product, although I think some of the DeSci projects are going into a dangerous sort of like DeFi direction. But it's something where it's very interesting how much you can do by decentralizing scientific processes, how you can coordinate science and research on chain, how you can figure out different ways of remunerating and paying people that are participating in research, how you can trace and track data, how you can make data available in decentralized ways for patients, for patient data, for doctors, for hospitals. It's an extremely interesting vertical. So I'm thrilled to see this project actually there. Mihai, you seem like you want to say something.
Yeah, the very first impact will be in averaging the costs with running the simulation. So the cost will go down. So that's a very useful and high utility for the scientists. That's why probably it will get a lot of traction in the, let's say, midterm future.
We love science. Let's do a DeSci hackathon, MVX. I love the idea. X Alliance, I always have to show this here. Important partnership in Nigeria with American Spaces. Did an event, an ideathon, which, by the way, next, of course, Mihai, once you're ready, it's going to be a vibe-a-thon to get some of these ideas actually implemented. Extremely excited about that. There is I spoke also like a little bit of alpha. I spoke to Sergio Biris, the co-founder of Exportal, CEO of Exportal, yesterday, I think, and I think 14% of downloads for Exportal are at the moment coming from Nigeria. So this is an like a very interesting development. Have some great people there on the ground, building community, running events, and yeah, it's been very interesting to see that grow. Lucian was at a conference in London. There were, I think, some other conferences that I'm missing here. I just picked some random stuff. I also always want to give Micha a shout out. I'm talking about great scientific and agentic experiments. Got a great feature in one of the largest news outlets in Austria. Also won a prize, an innovation prize, for Joy, an agentic automation system, payment system that is bringing all kinds of innovation to MultiversX. Very proud. There, maybe we have some more news on that particular project in the very near future as well. And also, always want to give a shout out the Philanthropy team. Not only launched some crowdfunding campaigns, so you can actually invest with real money into real stock of the project that is, I think, still live. And they also got accepted, I think, as one of 10 teams or something to an accelerator, spent the month in San Francisco, Silicon Valley, rubbing shoulders with some of the local leaders and innovators. And yeah, I think are coming back to London this week. Very exciting to see how that's developing. And oh yeah, this is just the last sort of thing. Always more quests, money to be made. I think this one has like a 50 EGLD prize. If you want to talk about your story, there's always go to quest.xalliance.com. Maybe I'll figure out how to get that in there. But open invitation. There's always ways to participate. I did, since we mentioned Micha, he's in the chat, and I saw this question pop up earlier. Agentic payments was a feature also. Obviously something with Benjamin that he discussed in the first Foundry sessions that is live there. Do you guys know if there's X402? This is the Coinbase sort of standard for agentic payments. Are you guys working, Mr. Engineering Manager, on this kind of stuff? Are you aware?
We started efforts quite immediately after it was announced, but meanwhile we did not follow through. Definitely we are looking at it, and we will serve it.
There's a few PRs left to merge before, perhaps. Yeah, so that was a little bit of a run through the ecosystem. Again, very incomplete list. A lot happened this month. Yeah, want to wrap it up with some closing thoughts, starting with you, Mr. Sasu.
You were so well on the D side. I was the decentralized science. I wanted to add that today I read a report from the European Bank that they want to put $1.3 billion in developing the digital dollar. I don't know how many trillions of lines of code they want to write with $1.3 billion. But if they are hearing us, there is blockchain, decentralized payments, decentralized public ledger, and it is open and it can be used for payments. So yes, innovation has to kickstart more and more in Europe. And then after, let's say, 15 years of Bitcoin and blockchain, I think that we will really see the payments to move onto chains. That's for sure.
Maybe next month we can get an update from the X Money guys. Would love to have Greg here or somebody to also chat about how the stablecoin rails are coming along. Obviously, a huge piece of the puzzle for the ecosystem also. But yeah, do get in touch if you're from the European Commission of Research. There is some good infrastructure that you can use that's already built, that's open source and verifiable. Mihai.
So October was heavy. November is going to be 10 times more heavier. There's a lot of things to do. I don't know exactly which one is the most, let's say, important. I think all of them are equally important, but we have just a limited amount of resources to put at hands to everything, and we just have to think, how can we facilitate everything? That's my first thought for what's going to happen. The second thought for what Robert said is about the European Union and the fact that it looks like we are losing a fight with China and the United States. Yes, probably you will have to, I don't know, there's a saying in Romanian that you will have to hit with your head the height of the door in order to understand the fact that something is wrong there. And then you will wake up and will do things much better than the others, just because you are later in the game and you will have all those learnings, so fails that the others have, and you will learn from their failures. Obviously, you will have yours, but you're already more advanced in the process. Hopefully, that will be the case, but someone has to wake up. And what we will have to do better is to try to accelerate faster. This is accelerate should be probably the word I will stick to for November.
Yes, we need to outpace a lot of things. I see some Robert, you need to merge some PR. I see that. I see a good suggestion, forking MVX, selling it to Europe, and then buying EGLD from the profits. Love that. How long do you see the supernova transition going on? This was kind of just touched upon. There's going to be basically a special event for that where all of the app builders can participate. It's called Battle of Nodes. There's going to be prizes to be won. So hopefully no downtime. But this is, of course, also a collaboration with the builders. It is a very different chain that will be live. And so that is going to be important, and hopefully can all be tested thoroughly with everybody. But yeah, huge moments, tons of lines of code to be reviewed, probably rewritten. And yeah, November is going to be big. December is going to be big. January is going to be huge. So a few busy months ahead. I think the last thing I also want to say again, there is an ongoing governance proposal, believe it or not. There are 2 more days left to vote. I believe Saturday at Epoch Change. That's, I think, around 4:30 p.m. UTC. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mihai. You have to vote. It is already a record turnout, 41.5% or something. If we could get across like the 50, let's say 45% line, creep toward the 50%, that would be absolutely lovely. Every vote does indeed matter. And I think it's been a very interesting experiment in a multitude of ways. And yeah, looking forward to continuing that after the governance proposal has ended, has been voted on. We'll of course give an update on what the next steps are. There are certain things in the governance proposal that still require another governance process. For example, the establishment of the DAOs that oversee a part of the distribution of the emissions, as well as separate votes for some of the elements in the proposal on some of the financial instruments that are being introduced there. So yeah, I don't even know. It sounds like everybody's going to have their hands full. The builders, the team, and all the people trying to keep up with all of the stuff that's happening. So that is probably a good thing. Yeah, with that, thank you everybody for tuning in. Robert, say bye and your last thoughts.
Go back to building. There are the new economics has a bunch of good stuff, but it has to be, let's say, earned. So let's go back to building.
Mihai.
Idem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do a Romanian saying to close things out. I love all the Romanian sayings. Where can we hit our head next?
Um, and I don't know. I don't have something memorable right now.
Yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in. This was Momentum episode 8, I believe. Busy October, a very busy November coming up. A lot of opportunities to be involved, become involved, stay involved. So please join us. There's always room for your contributions. We're looking forward to seeing you in the next one, and of course, in the streets, in the trenches. Everybody take care. Have a great night, evening, morning, wherever you are, and talk very soon. Cheers, everybody.